Hello guys, today is part 4 of the series of learning to read as dyslexic by a dyslexic, okay? Today is all about how we as dyslexics learn differently than others. But you might be saying, wait Theo, in part 1 you talked about why is reading hard, and you talked about reading, and you talked about the brain. Then the last part, you just spoke about how we learn differently, the different learning processes. Yes, but I didn't go in, I skimmed the surface a little bit. I've talked about the thinking processes, about how we think differently. This is more actually about how we take in and store and maybe even retrieve our information, and how that plays in a part in our reading, and how we can actually use this information taking with us to, one, for better understanding, for why is it hard for us to read and learn in general with certain things and certain concepts, and what we can do to improve our learning, and as well as educators, how we can better educate 20% of the population, dyslexics. Okay guys, I hope you enjoy today's episode. And as well guys, the spots are clearing up. Okay, there's not that many spots left of learning, of scheduling a 30-minute call with me. So if you don't know yet, I'm doing these 30-minute calls, or just private calls, completely for free. So you can talk to me about how you or helping your children or little ones improving their reading ability. I know I spent 8 years in my life in special education, trying everything. Then I left there, and I left there, I had extraordinary transformation with reading and everything. This is really hard to say in a short video, but I had multiple ups and downs. I'm saying I can read better now than I could ever read before. Massively, and it helps others read better than I could ever read before, dramatically, and not going through normal, conventional, expensive methods, okay? So anyway, talk to me, schedule, there'll be a link down below for that. But guys, today is all about how we learn differently, and let's get into today's episode. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. So we're going to start off this episode by recapping a bit about last part, about the multi-sensory approach. I know we talked about it in the last episode, but really this is one of the core foundations when we're talking about learning to read as a dyslexic. Now, this is one of the differences. Now, this difference between learning as a dyslexic and learning in the conventional neurotypical way of learning. Now, if we just learn, if we're just dyslexics out here figuring out how to learn, we don't really need to talk about multisensory, but because it will come so naturally to us, we won't even think about it. But because there's been so many studies, so many books on it, so many things about this multisensory approach, all the Autumn Gillingham stuff, is because it's different than the consensus. It's different than how we teach neurotypicals. But if you look at us dyslexics naturally, if you say go out and learn something, we would naturally learn differently than neurotypical. If they said go out and learn something, we would have to be taught to learn in a neurotypical way, which would actually be in an inefficient way for us to learn. So basically, multisensory just means you have 5 senses: see, touch, smell, taste, and hear. And we have to use as many of them as we can to learning. I like to, and also extra ones like visualization and things like that. I love to use my visualization. Close my eyes, visualize it. Using my body, drawing it with a finger. Sometimes people can clap, people can tap, people can stomp their feet when they're talking about what we spoke about in the last episode, the phonics or something. I don't mean to talk too fast, so try to slow down a bit, okay? So that's the first part, learning about the phonics. learning about multi-sensory approach. And I remember where I really took this in is visualization. When I had my little muck-up dyslexia notebook, I'd have a word, let's say cat. I could spell cat, but I had a word called elephant. But anyway, I had the spelling of the word elephant. I used the word cat because I don't feel confident I could spell elephant right here. But that's cat, C-A-T, cat. Okay, now close my eyes and, okay, C-A-T, that's the word I need to spell. And I close my eyes and I look at C-A-T, cat, C-A-T, cat, C-A-T, cat. I'll draw it with my finger, C-A-T, cat, with my eyes closed. And every time I drawed it, I could imagine it burning a hole in my skull. Get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And then I'd burst out and just write that word really fast on the paper. Another way that I did, I'll just draw around the word cat over and over again with my pen and say it cat, and say the letters and then combine it into the word. So that's how I use the multi-sensory approach a lot in learning to read. But also, I want to talk about the different ways we take in information. And now we talked about our big picture in expense of the details. Well, how we store information is kind of similar, because big picture and expense of the details that don't make narrative sense. This is how we store information, is that a lot of times there's two. So if you think about this and visualize this, there's two different types of people who store information differently. There's one type, which is the warehouse storer. The warehouse storer is, they would take in a bit of information and they'd store it in their warehouse in a systematized A to Z system, and they put it in there, and then later they can come back and they know exactly where they put it and retrieve it. Single separate bits of information. Okay, that's one type of memory. This is not the dyslexia type. Okay, the second type of memory is a baker. Like baking a cake. The second type of memory is baker. With a baker, you're baking a cake. You would add your ingredients, your pieces of information, and then they don't stay the same. Once you add one piece of information, let's say flour, then you add another piece of information, let's say eggs. The flour would combine with the eggs to make a certain substance. And then you add all these other pieces of information, you know what I mean? Salt, sugar, you know what I mean? All these other things you do to make a cake. And they'd always combine and adapt with other bits of information. Then it would make a cake. Okay? So in a sense, you started off with one piece of information and you added it in to make a whole construct, or a whole kind of a whole, as it were, to understand the whole thing as a whole. But the main point is, once you put a piece of information in your head, it's hard to retrieve that exact bit of information, because oftentimes that information would go in your head and see how it fits with all the other bits of information you have, and kind of slot itself in a kind of not a perfect, succinct way, but in a way that makes sense to the whole about how everything works. Say, like, I'm not understanding the body. You understand kind of like how glycogen works in the body and how that's stored with carbohydrates, how it's stored in the muscles, but you'd kind of fit that in everything else you know about the body, about the bones, about the energy consumption, and about all these different areas you use. Same with lactic acid, same with understanding muscles and things like that. And so everything combines together in one. So we can't put information in like a date about, oh, the World War II happened. I still don't know what World War II happened. The only birthday I know is my own, and my mum's and dad's, because they're the 1st and 2nd of the new year. But I don't know what way round it is. But only birthday I know is my own. The only phone number, I actually know 2 now, but I don't know anyone else's birthday. Why? Because it doesn't really fit in with the whole for me. It's really hard for me to remember names. And learning this fact, is really, really interesting in us learning more, like us learning our strengths, us learning like how to learn, in a sense. Like, okay, if we want to learn a story, the way we got to do that, if we want to learn a bit of information, we got to put it inside of a story, we got to draw it, we got to visualize it. It's about learning. It's hard to understand the single names of things, but it's about putting everything in a construct that we understand. A learning self that we understand. Now, we may think that this is a negative. We may think that this is not good in our learning, but we just learn differently, and we're good for different things. Because there's two different learning styles. Let's think about this. So we have our storage system for memory, and we have our cookie maker for memory. We're a cookie maker baking a cake memory. I think we're baking a cake memory. And then we got another bit of our learning process. That's called the turkey learning process and the crow learning. Turkey learning, because turkeys are very, very instinctual. You put something that makes the sound of their little ones. It could be like a robot. They'd automatically put their ring around them to protect them. Just like it's innate instincts. Their instincts are so strong. They don't really think. They just go with their instincts. While the crows are a lot more complex. They're a lot more independent thinkers. They like go around, and a lot of things aren't as innate to them as they are with turkeys, and their behavior is a lot more random. But our thinking style is a lot more like turkeys. Let me explain more, because a lot more like crows. Sorry. Let me explain more, because turkeys are a lot more like neurotypical people. They store information and keep it there, and they're good for habits. They're good for routines. They're good for systems. They're good for organization. It's like boom, 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 boom. They can do things again and again and again, repeatedly, really easy. But where they're bad with is creating new ideas. Where they're bad is coming up with new concepts. Where they're bad is be able to design things by themselves. By dyslexics. We are amazing at that. But what we're bad at with routine, with organization, with keep doing the same thing over and over again. What we're good at is taking in information, because when we take in information, it's a lot more effort for us to take in information. But yet we can do so much more of it, because we can create new ideas, we can create new concepts, so basically when we take in information, like with non-dyslexic, taking information, it kind of goes in the brain and fits itself exactly where it fits itself in the most efficient way, and it's retrieved in the most efficient way. It doesn't really touch a lot of the other areas of the brain. But with a dyslexic, they take in information and it goes through all the different areas of the brain. It chats to all the different sides. Hello memory, hello past, hello feelings, hello emotions, hello homeostasis. So it connects with all these other areas. But yeah, it requires a lot more effort. But then at the end of the day, it can use what they learned so much more. It can be so much more adaptive, come up with so much more solutions, so much more ideas, okay? So that's the strengths. The weakness is that it's slow, it takes the information, more effort. It's bad with routine and doing the same thing over and over, but it's really, really good at creating new ideas, new concepts, creating connections between seamlessly unrelated things. Okay guys, so those are the strengths of the dyslexic thinker. So how can we use this in our lives to make things better? Simply one is that understanding why we find it hard to remember things compared to everyone else, and that it's normal, it's natural. And how we can find strengths is more in the creative side of things, less doing things in habitual routines, but more creating concepts, like taking initiative more, creating concepts that other people don't see, creating connections, linking things. And now people say, oh, I don't have this gift, or that's not me. We still have to work on it. We have to work on it. Like anything, we have to work on and develop these skills. We do have them in us. We've got to spend time working on them and cultivating them. Okay, another thing is confidence. Being confident enough to share your ideas. Something I worked on massively, because something can beat us down over and over and over again by thinking we have the right answer, then we don't have the confidence to even put our hand up or even answer a question. And that can beat us confidence down to not actually explore our brain, to stay in our lane, to not be noticed. In order to do the dyslexic strengths we have to go outside and be noticed, work on ourselves and gain our confidence. I've done a whole series about our confidence a little while ago. Go and watch my confidence series. It's on my podcast. But guys, we use what we learn. Please use what we learn in these parts, and schedule a call with me if you want to have a chat. If you want a personal one-to-one answer your questions and speak about how you could dramatically improve your reading ability just like I have. Click the link down below, schedule some time with me and do that. Okay guys, I'll see you all again soon. Take care and bye.